Hi guys, Uncle G here. I just thought I'd share with you a technique that I developed a couple of years ago for making your own wooden beads using a Dremel. I'm sure someone else has come up with this in the past, but honestly I've never actually seen it on YouTube, and I've searched high and low, so I figured I'd share it with you anyway. So these are just some various bracelets and what have you that I've made over the years, so you can see the different beads. That one there is all sort of angles on them. This one was a black and white one. It's quite rare actually. I stained these ones with ebony dye, but most of them I don't actually do that, and I'll explain why in a moment. And another little one there. Generally I've given these out to girls that I know, friends and family. It's actually one I did for myself, which I quite like. That was actually made out of oak, that one. And then that one was various different woods as well. So I'll explain how I make all these. Stay tuned. So for this video I'm going to show you how I make this particular bead. This is made out of ash. You can see it's got a sharp line through the middle and sort of brown edges on it, and it's just a nice sort of barrel shape. So I'll show you how we start to make that using an ash twig. So here we go. This is an ash twig. Ideally just pick a nice day, go out for a walk, your local woods or trees, and cut yourself a couple of twigs, branches if you like, very small ones. They want to be about the thickness of your finger, thereabouts. Straighter the better, although if there is little sort of notches in it you can just cut around those, it's not a big deal. But you need to strip the bark off straight away as soon as you get them home, because when it's still green and alive it comes off really easy. It'll also help with the drying process, which will then take just a matter of about a week or so. I just generally put them in the rafters of my garage and then let them dry from there. So yeah, you just need a couple of twigs about the thickness of your finger. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut them into equal size little cylinders effectively. So I've started off by marking 10mm in this case, little marks on here just with a pencil and a ruler. So you can of course make them any size you want, but I'm just going to make a standard sort of 10mm bead today. So I tend to use a 10 and so. Little bench hook like this really helps just to stabilise everything. And just very gently cut through, move along and repeat. So you end up with lots of little cylinders all the same size. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to drill a hole through the centre of every one of them. I'm using here a 3mm drill bit. The reason for that is will become clear shortly, but it's also just a good sized hole for the middle of a bead. So this is my little Dremel press that you've got here, so excuse the noise. There you go, your little hole through the middle there. Obviously you've got to repeat that. You can clamp these in a small vise if you want to, but I found it's very time consuming, and as long as you've got a steady hand and a good grip with your finger and thumb, it's actually not that difficult just to hold them like that. But of course do be careful, you don't want to be drilling a hole through your thumb. We've got our little blank now, which is basically about 10mm in depth, length rather, and whatever the circumference is around there. That doesn't really matter at this stage, because we're going to change that of course as we spin the bead. So this is the next clever bit. What we need to do now is create one of these, and this is what you're going to spin the bead on. So you might have worked it out already, but it is essentially an Allen key. So if you get a 3mm Allen key, just a regular Allen key, and you need to cut of course the L bit off the end. With most Dremels you get one of these, which is just like a little metal cutting disc. So obviously put it in the Dremel, slice that end off there, discard that bit, and you're left with just a straight shaft. That then fits nicely into the chuck of your Dremel, just giving you this perfect cylinder on there which spins around. And of course the beauty of an Allen key is it's not round, of course, it's got all the sort of flat facets to it, and then that pushes into the hole and that grips it, and I'll show you how that works. So essentially you just line that up like that, press down on it, and it just slides in nicely. So it's now at the end there, but that's really firm. That will not come off easily. But it's really important that you get the drill bit size and the Allen key corresponding to be ideal for each other, so it's a nice snug fit. Because clearly if you end up with a hole that's too big and you just put that on, it's just lightly held in place, it'll just spin off when you're actually shaping the bead. Which of course can be dangerous as well. But providing it's a snug fit, they really just don't come off. I've done hundreds of these and I've never had one fly off and hit me in the face yet. Although of course I do wear eye protection. So once you've got it on the end of there, we now start shaping the bead. The first stage in shaping the bead is to get the actual diameter of the blank down to the diameter that you want it to be. So in this case I'm going to make a little 10mm cylindrical bead, and to do that what we do is we spin it onto sandpaper. This is just a little piece of plywood that I've stapled some sandpaper onto, and this is an 80 grit, which is the one I mainly use for shaping the bead. I've also got some little screws through here which, if you just leave the sharp edges sticking through, it helps just to sort of secure it to the bench like that. You just press down and then it's very stable. So we're going to spin the bead at about a mid speed on the Dremel and just keep it level. Don't start shaping it or rocking it backwards and forwards at this stage. You're just going to go out backwards and forwards that way, but keeping it level. So we're just going to try and create the cylinder. You'll notice I've got a little hole down here drilled in to my desk. That's actually a 10mm hole, so I'm going to check it periodically in there to see when I've got the right diameter. So here we go. Oh, that's nearly right actually, slightly more. And that's a nice snug fit. So there you go. That's a 10mm diameter bead, but we still haven't put any shape on it. You could of course leave it that shape if you want, but in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make a little barrel shaped one. Okay? I'm going to now try and shape the bead to make it look like this one here. Okay, so it's a typical barrel shape, but I've also got a nice sharp line through the middle and the little brown marks on either end. I'm going to try and keep this in focus and in frame, so bear with me. So we're going to start off with a 120 grit sandpaper here. This is just a double folded backwards, and then we're going to hold that in your hand, and then we're going to spin the bead against it and shape it like this. There's your basic shape, and as with all sanding you need to sort of increase the fineness of the grit, so it's quite rough at the moment, but we've got the basic shape. So I've now got a 320 grit, so I'm going to try and finish it with that. Okay, and then if you want to make it even more sort of smooth, you can use one of these sort of rubbing pads if you like. Just give it a spin on that. So we get a nice white, perfect shiny bead. But we do want to add a little bit more embellishment, so this is what we're trying to achieve. So now I'll show you how we get the sharp line in the middle. To get the sharp line through the middle, we're going to spin it on the edge of a Stanley knife blade. So I've got here just a small little vise with a Stanley knife blade in it, and what we're going to do is spin the bead and just gently press it down onto the edge of the blade. Look down directly from above, and then that way you can make sure you get it pretty much in the center. I do all this sort of thing by eye, so you know, they're never going to be all perfect, but that kind of adds to it. And it's worth noting actually, you never actually take the bead off this. As soon as you push it on from the start when it's a blank, you do not take it off until you're completely finished, even the polishing process at the end. Because if you were to take it off and put it back on again for some reason, it wouldn't spin centrally again. Okay, so this is how we put the mark in. There you go. One brown-black score right through the middle. Next thing to do is to put the brown bits on the edges. Okay, so to get these nice sort of brown edges to the bead, we're going to spin it against, in this case, some cardboard. This is just the back off like a sketch pad. You can spin it on wood or paper and various different materials, and you actually do get quite a varied texture. But this just gives it a nice uniform burn on the edge. So I'll show you how we do that. And there you go. Brown marks all over the edges. Now then, the final stage we need to do is just to give it a little bit of protection and a slight sheen to it. So all I do is I just spin it on some beeswax, and then I just polish on this sort of folded over leather. This is the back of leather, not the front, and it just gives it a little sheen, just like this. You'll notice I speeded that up a little bit towards the end, and the reason for that is once you get the beeswax on there, if you spin it quite fast, not to the point where you're going to burn it of course, but it will get hot. That then helps the beeswax penetrate into the grain, so giving you a nice sort of deep protecting layer effectively. So there you go, that's your finished bead. Well, I hope you've really enjoyed this little tutorial how I make my beads. Of course there's lots of other little designs you can do, and I'm sure you can come up with lots more yourself, but that's how I do it. You then pull them all off of course and then thread them onto bits of elastic or leather. You can make necklaces, bracelets, embellish anything you like with them. Okay, thanks for watching.